Hello. So today for our tutorial today, after you watch the first tutorial, then this is the second tutorial. So this is just an update that only focus on the rendering part only. So by now you guys have now to put in your tree, put in your accessories, import your model, how to apply materials, which is captured in the previous video I sent to you guys. So for all these components you are seeing, like these cars, so if you actually need them, I guess one of you guys already paid 15,000 already, so I've sent it to him. So if you still need, okay, I guess someone is also chatting me about it also, that you want to buy it maybe today or tomorrow. So no problem, all these cars, all these plants, you won't find them on Lumion. Everything you are seeing, all these components, you won't find them on Lumion. You will find them most likely on some of this PBR site, which you have to buy them. So I have a lot of components which I bought. Some I bought them for $7, some for $3, some for $4. So we are going to continue our class. So this is actually focusing on the rendering part only. So it's just like a continuation of the previous one. So all this like this pipe you are seeing on the floor is actually modeled. This red pipe, I modeled that on Revit for those using Revit. On SketchUp you can also model it. It's quite simple. So let's now move to the rendering part. So as I've said from the previous video, and for some of you that have started using Lumion, so you know that, oh, anytime you want to make your rendering, you go to photo. So these are some of the shots I've picked before. So now I'm going to pick a new shot to explain the rendering process. So one thing I want you to note, if you look at my screen, what you'll be seeing on my screen, it's in portrait mode. It's in portrait mode. Yeah, my image, my model is in portrait mode, not in landscape mode. I'll teach you how you can also do that, because this actually give you viewer range on your aspect ratio. Because some of you send me some of your work, some of your previous work, and I noticed that your aspect ratio is actually very low, so you don't know how to handle your camera, etc. So we are going to be capturing that. So I want to pick a newer view, so I'm going to the photo set to pick a newer view. So I'm just going to select a newer view then. So me picking my camera now, there are rules at which you have to adopt to pick your camera. There is human eye, there's fisheye view, there's direct view, there's bird eye view. For the sake of our tutorial, because that's what you mostly need, you only need the human eye, and the human eye range from 1.5, 1.6 to 1.7 in height. That's what you use for our visualization. So in Lumion, you already have where you can set your human eye. So if I set my human eye to 1.5, 1.5 is a meter. So I have this view. Then I have to move my camera up, because your aspect ratio, you have to capture the building, the landscape, and the sky. Now I can see the landscape, I can see the building is cutting off my sky. So I have to adjust my camera. So I'll press Ctrl. Sorry, don't press Ctrl yet. Go to your FX, then go to camera, then pick 2-point perspective. What this 2-point perspective helps you to align your building. Let me off the 2-point perspective for you to see the effect. Can you see? Then I on it back, so you to align your building accordingly. So now I can click on shift, then drag my mouse up. When I like dragging my mouse up and I'm pressing down my right click, then I drag my mouse up. So I have this perfect view you are seeing. I'm holding shift, I'm holding my mouse, the right click, I'm holding it, then I'm dragging it up. Then I have this view. So then I can store the view that I want. So after storing the view, then most likely what I use realistic. I don't use daytime because daytime setting is actually tedious. I don't want us to start going back and forth. So the one I actually use is realistic. So I go to realistic, then by default this is what realistic is giving me. If you are looking at my screen, even with this that I have by default is already even looking beautiful. I just need to do some twerk on the reflection, because the reflection is not at its best. Because the reflection is not giving me what is reflecting from the front, from the side, and all like that. So I'm adding the reflection to it and I'm twerking some other stuff. So one thing I want us to know beyond rendering is about the users, how you understand the software. So another thing is you have to model right. Your model has to be detailed. If your model is not detailed, you won't be able to pass across what you want to pass across in your rendering. So then I'll just come to my view sky. Most time I don't really use view sky. If I want a photo realist, I always set my sky manually, though you can still use your view sky and still achieve something better. So let me off my view sky here for us to see the effect. So can you see we have a change in sky. Then I go to my sharpen. So I click on sharpen, I put it around 1.0 to 1.1, that's what I always use. Then I go to exposure, I just increase my exposure a little bit, I go to colorization. So what I do in my colorization, I will reduce my temperature a little bit, still within my 0.4. I don't tamper with my tint, I don't tamper with my vibrance. My brightness, I increase it a little bit, still within my 0.7. My contrast, I don't really tamper with it, but if any reason warrants me, then I come there. So what you also need again is your gamma correction, so this deals with light, so I leave it at 1.5 at most, so 1.3 to 1.5 at most. So are you seeing the effect already? So here for my limit eye, it also is for light exposure also. So when I reduce it, I'll see the effect. So this is the effect I'm getting presently, which I'm liking the outfit. Then I go to my other settings. So my reflection, I talked about the reflection earlier. So I put this at normal. Note that this your speed ray reflection has to be on. Then I come down to this edit. Then I add reflection plane. You see the effect of the reflection plane now. So do you notice there's a different now? The reflection is reflecting what is actually seeing now. So these are stuff that give context to your visualization. Can you see? So the glass is reflecting as it's supposed to be. So now this is a daytime and we're having all these lights all around. So I can decide to off the lighting because it is daytime. So I go to my upper light. I increase my upper light. To talk about upper light, then you go to the skylight. So now the skylight, I increase the brightness a bit, then I put it on high. On ultra is actually nice, but to increase your rendering time. So go back, then under your shadows, because this is um daylight, it has to be on sharp, not normal, not, you can put it on ultra, but I don't advise it for you to delay your rendering time. So your sun shadow, you can leave it at this 1105 meters. This is what I always leave it at. Then your coloring, I just increase that maximum of 0.4, or still within my 0.3 at times. My brightness, I can either increase this or decrease this depending on my first test rendering, but for now I want to leave it this way. My exterior, I always increase it almost to the last bar, because of I'm dealing with exterior. If it's interior, I'm just going to leave it at that slash line before entering the exterior. This omni shadow is just good for details along where your joints meet, where your walls meet. So I always increase that just a little bit. Too much of it can cause darker patch around your joint walls. So this shadow correction, I put it to around 0.3. It just helps you to correct your shadows. Then I just leave this as fine detail shadow since I'm dealing with daylight. While for soft shadows is for night, when you are dealing with night. Then go back. Then I want to go back to my colorization. I want to increase, because I'm seeing that this my whole scene is so bright. I'm going to give it a bit of contrast. I'm going to reduce my brightness a bit. Then I'm going to increase this limit low to give it a darker feel a bit. Then I test it up and see. Then let us do a test run. And note inside this my scene there's what we call reflection control, which I add to it. It also helps us to aid the reflection process even after adding the reflection plane. So reflection control, you come to this utility, then this is it. It's just like a ball you just add to your scene, but it's close to where you have your glasses. For an example, when you click on utility, then you see it. This is it. This is what I drag into my scene. I click and drag into my scene. So that's it. So it helps in controlling your reflection. So note all those stuffs. Then let me come back to my rendering. So I use Photoshop to cut out my stuffs, to cut out my image. I just cut it at a nice place. I just crop it up with Photoshop. So if you have any other software you use, you can do that. And I also have a course on Photoshop if you want to. But inside one of the YouTube video I'll be sending to you, I actually explained some areas whereby I use Photoshop in my designs. So just make sure you watch all those videos I sent to you. So now let's test render. Print. I use print most of this. I don't use poster because of the rendering time. C1 for test renders. This is supposed to render for about 20 minutes. So we're already seeing the aspect already, which is still actually nice. So when it render finish, it's going to be better than this. But I don't want us to dwell on that because of I can't wait for the render time. But I will share some of the aspects with you. So then we can just go back. And note, you have to model right. You have to place your camera right. You have to use good components, because what is making this looks better is because it has good components, good camera view, good approach, the way you choose your leaves, the way you choose your plant. Those are what makes your rendering comes out better. Let me just pause this render. A quick one about overcast render. One of you sent an image to me and I told the person I know the guy that did the work. So most likely he love using an overcast rendering, especially when he's using 3D Max. So what overcast does for you is just like it give you a mood as if the rain just fell or after the rain sort of. That's the kind of mode. And on Lumion, you have an overcast that you can just pick instead of picking realistic. So I'm just going to go through. You are going to leave the sky the way it is, or you can just change it through this tab into an overcast kind of cloud. Can you see? And you have these selections. So let's go back. So I added sharpness. My sharpness is around 1.0.9 rather. So I want us to note all those settings. I would have loved to share this model with you so that you guys can also go around it and see for yourself too. So under the exposure, you'll see the exposure is just around 0.5, which is what is there before. Then I move to colorization. This is where I did some settings. 0.4, not far away from where it is. Then I don't do anything on my vibrance. I go to my brightness 0.7. Then I always use between 0.5 to 0.8 at times. Contrast 0.5. I don't tamper with saturation. The gamma correction 1.0 to 1.1, 1.2 maximum. The low limit, the limit low, which is also about the exposure, is around 0.0, but it's actually increased. It's not in zero, it's in 0.0. So here I have limit I. It also works with light as well. So I have 0.1. So it's just a bit reduction from the maximum. Then I go to the next one, which is the reflection. I talk about the reflection. You have to put the reflection plane that I told you about. You can see it is all over there. Then you have to put either normal or high. This high will actually increase your rendering time notes. Then we have the hyperlight. You have to increase your hyperlight to the maximum, just like the way you have for the realistic. Likewise, your skylight, you have to put it on high. Ultra will actually increase your rendering time. You increase your brightness to 1.1 to 1.3. Then you on this to leave the saturation alone. Then you come to your shadow. So under this shadow, you can increase this brightness a bit. When you are dealing with exterior, increase the exterior either by 0.5 or to maximum. From the shadow, I've explained that in the previous one. While shadow correction, you can increase it between 0.1 to 0.5. And when you are dealing with a mode like this, you do always have a sharp shadow. So you do soft shadows. Do you get? That means this has to be in normal. Then you just on your soft shadow. Your soft shadow must be on. So I'm going back to the next one, which is depth. So that's on this next slide. So yeah, of it, this depth of it actually give you an effect whereby it blur out some part of your model of your render image. Then that's the settings for overcast. So I can send you guys the output of this. And if any of you need this model, just let me know so I can send it to you. You can go over it over and over.